Well, Ahmed Santos, thank you very much for doing this. Thank you for being here, and welcome to theboxingbar.com.
Well, thank you, Albert, and the boxingbar.com for having me with you guys, and it's a pleasure.
All right, let me go ahead and start with day one. First question I ask everybody, where were you born and raised?
I was born and raised in Los Mochis, Sinaloa, Mexico.
And what was it like living there in Sinaloa?
Oh, it was great. I had a great time when I was a kid. It was a regular life. I went to school and played sports, mainly soccer, but mostly all sports, and it was all good. It was a very normal growing up.
And how far are you from, let's say, Culiacan?
I'm just 2 hours away from Culiacan, driving.
What was it like to be out of there, out of the place where the biggest boxer in the history of Mexico is from, Julio Cesar Chavez?
Actually, it's kind of funny because I started in boxing because of Julio Cesar Chavez, because like a whole generation of fighters, we got inspired by him, and we wanted to be champions and be great like him, and that's how I started. And actually, I heard about him because he's from the same state, from Sinaloa. That's how I heard. I have never paid attention to boxing, and I was 14, and that was in '88. He was in his prime, and that was when I heard this guy from Sinaloa, the best fighter in the world, pound for pound. So I watched one of his fights, and I was like, wow, I want to be like this guy. That was on a Saturday night, and Monday, 2 days after that, I was in a boxing gym training for the first time.
A lot of negative remarks are said about Culiacan or Sinaloa, about all the things going on over there. How do you describe Sinaloa? What it was like during that time when you were being raised? What was Sinaloa like back then?
Actually, it has been always very calm. Just in the last couple of years, it has got a little, let's say, violence, but that's just among the people that are, in the drug business and their fight with the government too right now. So, for example, here Los Mochis was very, very calm. Has been always very, very calm. Just the last couple of years have been a little tough, or just people have to be careful. Culiacan is different. Culiacan has been always a nice eating, calm, but it has the shootings and stuff. I mean, since I can remember, for more than 30 years, it has been, the drug capital of the world, or of Mexico, and unfortunately, this state that has a lot of good things like agriculture, fishing, commerce, a lot of good things, and a lot of celebrities, a lot of the biggest celebrities of Mexico are from this state. It has a lot of good things, but unfortunately, that let's say the black eye or the black sheep, that unfortunately, I don't know if because of geography or I don't know why, but Culiacan and thus far the whole state got that image to the world of being the drug capital of the world. But actually, if you come here, it's very normal, very calm, and it's a very regular place.
What was Sinaloa like, or you liked as a kid growing up, and when you were a kid in your niñez or your childhood? What were you like as a kid growing up?
Well, I like I said, I have a very normal childhood, and I was myself. I had let's say good time in school. I was a good student. I was let's say kind of a nerd. Even wore glasses, but I was also good at sports. I wasn't the star of the teams in school, but I was good enough. I played everything, but the thing that I played the most in organized leagues and stuff was soccer. So I just had a good time in school and playing sports and playing every kind of thing that kids do. And that was until I was 14 when, like I told you, I watched one of Chavez's fights and I got hooked with boxing, and I started training boxing.
And as a kid growing up, you sound like you were very athletic. Playing soccer, of course, that keeps you very conditioned. Did you have any other sports, or were you athletic as a kid growing up overall?
Yeah, I was very, very athletic overall. Like I told you, soccer was like my main thing in sports that I played. But I played everything. I ran 100 meters, even like 10 kilometers. I played baseball with my friends, and basketball, volleyball, everything. But mainly, well, besides soccer, what I played the most, I think, was baseball and basketball.
How many brothers and sisters did you have growing up?
I have 2 brothers and 2 sisters. I'm the second of the 5 siblings.
Around your house, how did you guys get along, or were you guys pretty tight?
Yeah, we were pretty tight actually. We were like normal brothers and sisters. Of course, I grew up fighting with my older brother. He's 2 years older than me, and but just like any other couple of brothers, we grew up fist fighting. Yeah, I think the last time we fought with our fist was like till no, I was 17, he was 19. But I mean, but just like any other couple of brothers, we grew up fighting. I think maybe that helped me to be kind of good at fighting because I was used since growing up to fight with a bigger guy than me. He was 2 years older, so when your kid's 2 years is a big difference. And so I wasn't afraid when there was a chance to fight at school or the street. I wasn't like a bully, but still, I mean, I was good enough that I wasn't afraid to fight someone my size or even bigger because I was used to fighting my brother who was bigger.
Did you get good grades? Did you get bad grades? What were you like as a student?
No, actually, I was a very good student. I was almost, I want to sound cocky or anything like that, but I was the first in class in all the subjects. I always got A's, and I had great grades and scholarships and stuff. And I did good in school.
What do you remember, or how did you get into the gym? The first time you walked into a gym, what was it like for you?
Actually, going to the beginning of your question, there is have a kind of a rare story that I was a good student and I wasn't like from a trouble neighborhood and had a maybe kind of different story than most of fighters. And actually, some kids that were with me in grade school, when they saw me fighting when I was in my 20s and started fighting, they couldn't believe that. Oh, you're a boxer. Yeah. People that found out and they knew me as kids, they were like, it wasn't very likely that I would become a fighter. But well, it happened like I told you, watching Chavez and wanted to go to the gym. And I remember exactly the first day I went to the gym. That was September 7th of 1988. I went with actually three neighbors that they were brothers. I knew they were going to train to a boxing gym. Actually they invited me a few times, and it never caught my attention until I saw Chavez fighting, and I heard about Chavez. It was Chavez and Tyson. Tyson wasn't his friend too, but Chavez became my instant idol, and then my second favorite fighter was Mike Tyson. And I went with these guys. One day that we went to the gym, I asked him if I could go with them, and that I wanted to see what boxing was about, and that I wanted to see how Chavez trained. So I went that day to the gym, and it was, as I said, my first step into the gym, I fell in love with boxing. Really, I loved it. I loved the environment. I loved just learning how to fight, and like I told you, I was a good street fighter, but learning how to fight with technique, that motivated me, and like I told you, I wanted to be a world champion like Chavez, and I was like, wow, I want to learn this, I want to learn how to fight. First day that I went to the gym, I wanted to spar, and they told me, no, you have to wait, you have to learn a little. And then after a few minutes of the first step and throwing the jab and stuff, I told the guy, okay, I'm ready to spar. He told me, no, you have to learn, but like a couple of weeks to be able to spar. I was like, okay, but I was very impatient to be sparring, to be throwing punches, that I went there every day until I got to spar, and then got to fight my first amateur fights. I don't know, I fell in love with the sport.
A lot of people in Sinaloa, they're coming up also in boxing, and going into boxing was a good thing. It's a disciplined sport.
Oh yeah, it was. You need a lot of discipline to be in boxing, and I think the background that I had, being an athletic kid, playing soccer and all these sports, helped me to outstand what boxing had for me, or the discipline of boxing. And like I told you, the big inspiration of Chavez and then Tyson, but mainly Chavez. And yeah, they were an inspiration to a whole generation of fighters. Actually, now that you mentioned the two of them, and when they lost, when Tyson lost was the biggest surprise in the history of boxing. And then when Chavez lost, it was a big upset against Frankie Rando. That's the only two times that I have cried in my life when somebody has lost a fight. When Tyson lost in 1990, I cried a lot that night, and then when Chavez lost in '94, I cried and cried. I was already a pro fight with just 5-6 fights, and I didn't drink, and I was very dedicated. That night I got drunk. I drank some tequila with some friends and cried and got very drunk because Chavez had lost.
Yeah. Hey, you know what? Tyson was one of my favorite, if not my all-time favorite fighter of all time. And he lost that fight that you're talking about in 1990, where he lost. It was on my 15th birthday, so it was right on my, I guess you could say, my quinceañera. And
Wow.
he lost on that day, and it was heartbreaking for me. And I'll always remember that fight. And again, I remember a month after he lost, that's when Chavez fought Meldrick Taylor. I don't know if you remember that fight. I'm sure you remember that fight. And
Yeah, yeah, for that, yeah, Tyson lost in February and then Chavez fought Taylor in March. Actually, well, it's been one of the most dramatic fights in boxing history, and of course the most famous was Chavez's fight because of the drama. I think I watch a fight over and over, and maybe watch it 2, 3 times every year. And I think actually the stoppage was right. I mean, even though there were only 2 seconds left on the clock, Richard still didn't know exactly how much was left, and one or two more punches could have really hurt Taylor. But I think I think that Chavez gave him a beating. After I watched the fight over and over, even though Taylor was very fast and winning the rounds, but Chavez was methodical in beating him up, weighing him down, and the knockout came late till the 12th round. But it was a beating that Chavez gave to Taylor, and proof of that is that Taylor was never the same after that fight.
100% correct. If you remember that fight on that last knockdown there at the end of round 12, Rich still did the exact perfect thing to do. Somebody gets dropped, you get back up. They ask you simple questions: where you at? What day is it? Whatever they might ask. And if you don't answer those, they're gonna stop the fight. He didn't answer those because he was busy looking at his own corner. His manager was jumping up and down. His trainer was jumping up and down in the opposite corner, and he was distracted by him. He turned away. He didn't answer those questions because he was looking at his trainer, and they stopped the fight because of that. The next fight for the rematch, he fired that trainer because he knew that's what did it. And so it was a rifle stoppage, not just because I'm a Chavez fan or because whatever, but it was a rifle stoppage. You don't answer those questions, they're gonna stop the fight on you.
Oh yeah, and he asked him. You can. Well, I think we all have seen the replay,
Yeah, he had some
replay of the ending. He asked him 2 times, "Are you okay?" And he didn't answer. "Are you okay?" 2 times, and he didn't answer.
How did you get into the amateur boxing? What was your amateur record, and what do you think of your amateur career overall?
Well, when I started going to the gym, like I told you, I was very eager to learn and to fight and spar from the first day. So, and I wanted to fight, of course. And so there weren't a lot of amateur fights here in Mexico. Well, you have seen throughout history that Mexican fighters, most of them don't have a lot of amateur fights. Some turn pro even without an amateur fight. That they don't have like the 100 or 200 and something amateur fight like a lot of the American kids that turn pro. But it took maybe 9 months for me to fight my first amateur fight since I started training. So I was already 15. And I had a good amateur career. I could say good in terms of fun and learning and sparring a lot with pros in the gym, but fighting with amateurs. I didn't have a big amateur experience. I just had 14 amateur fights over the course of, let's say, 4 years since I started training, 3 years since I started really fighting. And actually, I didn't have a good amateur record. I had 8 wins and 6 losses. It wasn't good. And some of those fights actually I was slow starter, and I remember always losing the first 2 rounds. Sometimes I would win the 3rd round. I was warming up and getting starting to fight in the 3rd round, but the fight was over. So I had 8 wins and 6 losses, but it was a good experience for me to learn. And if I could have changed something in what I did as a boxer, I would have liked to have a longer amateur career, to have more fights, to have more experience, because it was just 14 amateur fights and just here local, and then go to tournament nationals or internationals or anything like that.
Do you think it's important for a boxer to have an extensive amateur career to be successful in the pros?
Yes, I think it's very important. Actually, well, a good amateur career never guarantees that the fighter is going to be a good pro fighter or a world champion. But of course, the more experience you get, the better, and it's international experience, and it's a lot of, good opposition, and the amount and the quality of the experience you get is very good. I mean, there are rare cases, like you said, like Chavez, with just a few amateur fights. Actually, by coincidence, I had the same amateur fight Chavez, 14. But I right now actually that I'm working with fighters and stuff, we try always to choose kids that have a good amateur careers or at least kids that have some experience because that gets you kind of ready for the pros. I mean, to have the experience to have gone through a lot of things, and like I said, even if you have more than 100 amateur fights, it doesn't guarantee a good pro career, but it helps a lot to have a good level of competition in the amateurs to be ready to go far in the pros.
You brought up Chavez as being one of your favorites, or not your main favorite fighter, to motivate you to become a boxer. Is there any other boxers that you liked growing up, as a kid? Is there any other boxers that you grew up liking or becoming influences in your life or in your career?
Yeah, I have admired a lot of fighters since I started training boxing. At the same time, I started really watching all the fights, becoming a big time fan, big time fan of boxing. Besides training, and like I said, after Chavez, Tyson was one of my favorites. One of my our favorites have been Oscar De La Hoya, even if it sounds ironically, because he fought Chavez and stuff. But I admire his career too. One of my all-time favorites, and he's become one of my favorites in the last years, and not because of his big fight that he's had lately. Since I saw him fight for the first time in '95 on TV, fighting at the Forum in Inglewood, California. Juan Manuel Marquez. When I saw him fight first time in '95, I was like, wow, this guy's good. He's been one of my all-time favorites too, and I think he maybe number two in my list. Well, Tyson was number two, but I think now Marquez is number two besides me and behind Chavez. And there are a lot of fighters that I have admired, like Eric Morales too, Marco Antonio Barrera.
And you know what's funny is that I kind of know where you're going there. You bring up Inglewood, California. You bring up the Great Western Forum, which is the name of the arena where they fought at. Marco Antonio Barrera fought a lot out of there. Marquez fought a lot out of there. Maromero Paz fought a lot out of there. And they're some of my favorites, and they're like the best memories I have in my life, and my first memories I have in my life in boxing is the people that did fight out of Inglewood. Chiquita Humberto Gonzalez, one of my favorites also, and Ricardo Lopez. They all fought out of there, man, and they were some of the best, and I'll always admire those guys. They're the ones that brought me into boxing. I remember watching K-Cal boxing or Prime Ticket boxing, and those were the headliners. Those were the guys. And back then, people used to see Mexican fighters like they were just the small guys trying to come up. But no, they were the big guys coming up because look at them now. They're still big guys, and it's 20 years later.
Oh yeah, definitely. The forum was a place where a lot of stars developed and became stars and got to big places. Yeah, it was a great place. Yeah, actually, now that you mentioned Jorge Paez, Jorge Maromero Paez, and Ricardo Finito Lopez. They are among my favorites too. You got me with my mind blank, but they are some of my favorites too.
Professional fighting. At what point did that happen?
Actually, it's kind of funny because when I was fighting in the amateur and stuff, and then I finished high school and I started to go to college here in Los Mochis. I wasn't thinking to become a pro. Like I told you, when I started, I wanted to be like Chavez, but then I was like, no, I want to study and stuff, and I love boxing, but I can have it as a hobby, or maybe even compete in state tournaments, or maybe even go to Olympics as an amateur. But I decided to go to college, and it was almost at the same time that I started college that I started fighting pro. It was because my trainer convinced me to go pro. That here in Mexico, and people mostly need money, and he of course he wanted to make money with me, and he convinced me, and I was like, oh, I want to go pro, and he convinced me, and they paid me almost nothing for my first pro fight, but I was like, oh, okay, I'm still training and fighting, but then now they want to pay me to fight. I didn't take it that seriously. I saw it as besides being a hobby, as a side job. I was like, okay, I'm going to school and to college, and I have this hobby and they're paying me to do it now, and so it's gonna help me with my education because things weren't good at home. My parents have this divorce, and so I helped. I thought that money was gonna help for school. So I started as a pro, but like I told you, not really taking it that seriously, because I was more focused at that time in school, in college. Even though I love boxing, but I was focused in school. But then I started doing good at fighting. I started calling some local attention and started being considered a local prospect. So that when boxing became then more important than school, and when I decided to go full time with a pro boxing career, to give it a try and give it a try, but really trying, like I said from the beginning, trying to be a world champion like any other fighter, but also like my idol, Julio Chavez.
What do you remember about your first professional fight?
Actually, it was an experience. Like I told you, it wasn't really focused into a big pro career, and I wasn't even focused into a pro career. But I got nervous, like for every other fight, I got nervous, and then because I fought a kid that was considered a local amateur boxing star here. So, like I told you guys, I had those 14 amateur fights and 8 wins and 6 losses. I wasn't, nothing of a star or anything like that in the amateurs. And this guy that I fought, he had been an amateur star, and he was like 6-0 in the pros, and he was like 2 or 3 years older than me, so more experience in the amateurs and in the pros. So I felt kind of nervous, but I was like, okay, let's do it. Let's do it. Whatever's gonna happen is gonna happen, and this will show me if I can fight or not. So and we fought to a draw, and really I had the video of the fight. We beat the hell out of each other, and it was a fair draw. You know, one of those fights that were very even, and a draw I think was fair. But after that, it was a good experience because I was like, oh, it isn't as bad as I thought. But they paid me a little to fight this guy. He was supposed to be a star, and I fought to a draw with him. I felt the draw more. I felt happy for the draw. I felt as a victory that I could draw with this guy that was a local star, and so it was a good experience. And so I started to feel what it was like to find the pros. It wasn't easy. It wasn't as hard as I thought, but it wasn't easy. It's fighting with smaller gloves, and even I remember feeling 2 very hard headbutts in my first pro fight, and that was a big welcome to the pros, because in the amateurs with the heavier you don't feel the headbutts.
What were your goals coming in the professional ranks?
I wasn't really thinking of a pro career when I started college. So the first fight I went into it without really big goals or anything like that. But then when I decided to continue, actually I couldn't go back to the amateurs, but I decided to continue because if they were gonna pay me, even though it was very little money, sometimes they paid me with tickets, and I had to go sell them to get my fight purse. But I decided to go on. That would help me to pay school, to pay for college. But at the same time, I was I was a professional when I was disciplined, and I was like, okay, if I'm gonna start with this, now it's like a hobby. They're paying me for, but I'm gonna do good, and if I keep doing good, then I wanna go like every fighter, dreaming of a world championship. Especially like I told you, when I started winning the first after the draw, I won all my following fights. So I started to think that I had maybe some talent, and I was like, yeah, I wanna be a world champion. Like when I started boxing, went to the gym wanting to be like Chavez, I decided to go on and try the best to go all the way to the top.
Did you have a nickname growing up or as a boxer?
No, actually, Ahmed, my name is not very common. Here, it's a name from the Middle East, so everybody calls me Ahmed. It was rare enough for me to have a nickname. In regular life, but in boxing, just my name, Ahmed Santos. And when I went to train to Phoenix in '95, I was 4 years with the Carvajal, with Danny Carvajal, and of course his brother, and fighter Michael Carvajal, a Hall of Famer. Yeah, he was great. Michael was a great fighter, and a great person. I trained with him for 4 years. I saw him every day for 4 years, and a great person, a great fighter, great friend. And so anyway, when I got to Phoenix with them, one of my sponsors, actually a guy that helped me a lot, was the one that contacted to me. Charlie McMorris is his name. He and some more people, the American people, they, because of my last name, Santos, they tried to nickname me the Saint. So I was Ahmed the Saint Santos for a few fights when I got to when I started fighting in Phoenix and in the U.S. But then it didn't really get that catchy, or like I said, before everybody knows me as Ahmed is my name, so I decided to quit that nickname and just keep being just myself, Ahmed Santos, without a nickname.
So you start fighting professionally. What would you say are your biggest strengths?
Well, I think that the discipline and my work was what made me do something in the ring. Or I didn't have a great natural talent, or I didn't have great speed or great power, but I just worked very hard. I think I was one of those fighters that get to some point because their work takes them over there more than the talent. You know, you have seen a lot of talented fighters in the history that don't make it because they're not disciplined, or vice versa. I guess that are not that talented and make it because they work hard. I think that it was my case. I was a hard worker in the gym. I worked very hard, and that took me to whatever I got to go in boxing. Just working. Of course, you have to have some skills or ability. You don't have a lot of talent. I think I could take a punch and could give a decent punch, and I had a lot of guts at fighting. I never gave up, and I think that helped me a lot. But it was more my working hard.
What do you remember about the first guy you got a loss to, David Sample? What do you remember about that fight?
Well, actually, that fight was my first 10-rounder. Actually, and up to this day, it was a very close fight. Actually, it was a split decision. One judge gave it to me and two to him. Right. Up to this day, I think I won the fight. It was one of those fights that both fighters think they won. And what I remember of being inside the ring and watching the video over and over, I think it was close, but I think I won. But it was very close, really. It was very close. But I remember he was a big step up in class because he had fought for a world title and gave a couple of fight to Miguel Angel Gonzalez, who was back then a great heavyweight champion. And but I think now seeing the things in perspective, I think that fight was a mistake for my trainer, or for my manager trainer Danny Carvajal, to go into my first 10-round fight with a southpaw, very crafty, like Pernell Whitaker style, very experienced. I think it was too soon, or I think he wasn't the right opponent. I think that he was just one of those guys that will give a hard or difficult fight to anyone, even a world champion like he did with Gonzalez. And I think that was a mistake. But still, I learned a lot from that fight. But up to this day, I could say that I won. But really, it was very close. A draw would have been okay too.
What did you think of Danny Carvajal?
Well, personally, I don't know if you have heard he's in trouble and that he's in prison right now, paying for things that sadly he did to his family and to his brother Michael. He took all his money, and that really saddens me up. As a trainer, he was a very good trainer. He knew a lot of tricks, a lot of things. He was really a very good trainer. But on the other side, I don't know, I feel it's like mixed feelings, because I had a great time with him as a trainer and friend, but then what we found out in the later years that he did with the money that his brother trusted to him is very sad, and I feel very mad at him for doing that to Michael, because Michael is a great guy, a great person. He's the one that earned all the money, taking punches and getting punches in the ring, and that's bad.
You go up a few fights afterwards, and you get wins, and you get a few draws in between. You fight in Coachella, California, against Antonio Diaz. What do you remember about that fight?
Actually, that was the toughest fight in my career. Antonio Diaz is the guy that hit me the hardest of them all the guys that I fought. He was very quick, very strong. Actually, he surprised me. I mean, I wasn't overconfident for that fight. I trained hard, and I was in the ring 100%, but he was way tougher than what I thought, and he beat me fair and square. That he was a very good fighter, and he beat me. And what I remember is that I felt the hardest punches that I felt in my career that night.
I think that was one of the first fights I remember seeing you in. And yeah, you guys threw down. But at the same time, you didn't get knocked down to a lot of those punches that he knocked out everybody else to.
Yeah, actually, I felt his punch, and he took me. He sent me down one time in the 7th round with a jab, but that was more. Besides him being very handy, a little off balance, and with his heavy hands, he put me down. but I took punches way harder than the one he put me on the canvas with. Well, I didn't go down because well, I could take a punch and really it was a big factor. My condition into it was a big factor. That I was very strong and also my will that I never gave up. And I actually he hurt me. First punch he landed on me, he hurt me the first round, and it took me a lot of time to recover, a lot of rounds. I started making or doing my fight and fighting till the ninth round. It was too late. I maybe won some of the last of the later rounds, even though I think the three judges gave me all the rounds, I made a closer fight in the last rounds, and which is very funny. Like all my life, I thought that of course he won and he won a clear fight, and he gave me, let's say, a beating. And he told me maybe like 2 years ago that we ran into each other and we're talking with some people about the fight. He told me that in the last round he was just lucky to finish the fight. He told me that he started me my body punching, that I was really killing him to the body, that it was too bad. I mean that I got inside and that he couldn't take it, and in the last round he was just waiting for the bell to ring to have the fight over. And I was like, really? He said, yeah, I could. I mean, you almost had me. You wore me down the last few rounds. And I thought myself, I thought that I had never even heard him or anything like that. And he confessed that the last round I was really giving him a beating, especially to the body, and that he was just lucky to finish on his feet.
And I think that had probably a lot to do with all the fight that you watched Chavez in, right? All the body punches that finished somebody off.
Oh yeah, I learned a lot from Chavez and also Michael Carvajal, the gym. Michael has been, I think, after Chavez, or he's the second best body puncher that I've seen in my life. I learned a lot from them, but especially from Chavez. I watched his fights over and over, and I learned a lot of the moves and stuff from him. Actually, I think I learned more from him from watching his fights than what my trainers that I had taught me. And actually, now that you mentioned Chavez and the point to the body, one of the greatest satisfactions that I have, that I've had in my life as a fighter was when I won one fight before Diaz, when I won the IBA title, as a minor title, but still my belt says world champion. That's something well, to me, that's a big accomplishment. Of course, I would have liked to be a great like Chavez or Tyson or De La Hoya, but anyway, when I won the fight, it was in Las Vegas, and the referee was Joe Cortez, and that was just great to be in Las Vegas and fight that I was watching TV with Chavez's fights and stuff like that. Cortez was the referee.
Against Pete Taliaferro, right?
Yeah, Pete Taliaferro. Yeah, so it was like a dream come true to fight in Vegas for a title, and then with Joe Cortez as a referee. When the fight finished, I won in the ninth round. I was in the ring, celebrating and stuff, and my best friend was up in the ring too, and he was asking stuff about the fight to Joe Cortez. And one thing, I mean, I will never forget that Joe Cortez told my friend, I haven't seen anybody hit the body like this kid since Chavez. And I was like, whoa, I felt so good.
We're talking about Antonio Diaz. What was it like to fight in his hometown, in his territory, in Coachella?
Actually, well, we took the fight and we're like, okay, we had a title with the NBA title, but we had it and we're like, okay, we're gonna, like the old times, defend it anywhere. That doesn't matter where if it's in his backyard. Actually, to myself, it didn't affect me. It was like it's only him and I in the ring, and it didn't affect me. But I saw that it affected him in a positive way. He was inspired. Every punch that he landed, people would scream, and it affected him in a very positive way. You can either, when a fighter fights at home, it's a lot of pressure or it's a big help. It can either affect you in a good way or a bad way. So I think it didn't affect me, but I think it had a positive effect in him. I think if the fight would have been somewhere else, it would have been different. So I think he just felt great fighting with people and being cheered by his people. It was just something great for him to fight at home. And I'm not saying that it's not an excuse because he really won the fight purely, but I think it affected him in a good way to be at home.
Even though right now you just finished saying that Antonio Diaz was one of your toughest fights, but yet you fight Chavez, and how do you compare him to Antonio Diaz?
Well, first of all, now that you're talking about them too, and you're asking me directly, Antonio Diaz hit me way, way harder than Costa Rica. He hit way harder. And I don't know if, well, some fighters, of course, hit hard, but I don't know if it's about the moment that, or circumstance that you facing. Because I have, for example, Antonio Diaz, like I told, he hit me very hard. And I asked Antonio Margarito if Diaz hit hard. And he told me, no, he hit hard. I went, wow, he's the strongest guy that I felt. And like that, and even actually the lightest hitter that I fought in my career, the lightest of them all is Ricky Quiles. And Ricky Quiles, I mean, he knocked out some people. He even killed one guy fighting. So it's like, yeah, I know it's strange. It's strange, but anyway, Diaz hit way harder than Costa Sioux. Costa Sioux was very fast. He was very, very fast, and I couldn't see his punches coming. And he was very crafty, very experienced, very. He hit hard, not hard as Diaz, but he was very strong overall, and with power and just his body, he was very strong. But more than that, he was very experienced, very crafty. But I went into that fight, of course, with fighting for the WC World title. I went with 100% of training, and I went there I knew it was going to be a big upset if I beat him. I knew he was a heavy favorite, but I really went in there to win the fight and to do my best. And well, you know, the result, he was a Hall of Famer. He was a very good fighter. I got to accept that he was very, very good, and he beat me.
For like boxing fans, it's kind of hard to understand. Like, okay, Antonio Diaz, like you said, was your hardest opponent, the hardest hitter, but he won by decision. But yet, Costa Sioux won by technical knockout over you. But yet, you're saying Antonio Diaz hit harder. So a lot of people won't understand how that is. How would you explain that?
Well, the first thing, one thing that was different with them, even though Diaz was I think that the speed was the same, but Diaz hit way harder. I think Sioux was more accurate, and more experienced as knowing where to push the fight and how to put the punches. But I think, well, it's a fact. Sioux hurt me with punches in the back of the head. He really got me dizzy with those punches, and all throughout the fight he was hitting me in the back of the head. And it's not an excuse, but it was very hard. It was going to be very hard to beat him that night. But I think if he hadn't hit me in the back of the head, the fight would have gone the distance. And I'm pretty sure he was going to win because he was very fast and crafty. But definitely, I'm the one that felt the punches. The punches that hurt me were in the back of the head, and that's why he got me all dizzy, and that's why he hurt me. But because there's no way in the world that he would knock me out. In the first couple of rounds, I felt his hardest punches with the right hand, and I was like, okay, he's hard, but I can take his punches. I could take his punches all night long, but he really hurt me, hitting me in the back of the head. And proof of that is that on the interview after the fight, he apologized, and then he went to my dressing room to apologize and he told me, you know what, you could take a punch, and I needed to hurt you, so I saw that I could have a chance to hit in the back of the head, and that's how I heard you. He accepted that. He hurt me in the fight, but also, like I said, he wasn't the hardest puncher, but he was very hard puncher. And those punches really affected me. I wasn't never the same after the fight. If you can see my record, I retired 4 fights after that, and I lost 2 of them that maybe I shouldn't have lost. But I was never the same. I was like a short fighter, so that fight, he really hurt me with those punches.
Why would you say you lost those fights? Did it have something to do with your mentality going into those fights? Why do you think you lost those fights?
Well, like I said, I never felt the same after Costa Sioux. And really training, I would get robbed a lot of times sparring, and something that never happened before. I didn't feel quite the same, but mentally it was okay, and I really had my strong will, and I was like physically, mentally, I prepared myself very good, and mentally too. I think those punches that you gave me in the back of the neck really affected me physically, not mental, physically. It was actually, I went to neurosurgeon and got some tests after that because I didn't feel good. I had headaches once in a while, and he told me that I was going to be okay, but that I needed to rest for some time, and he's kind of explaining what were the effects of those punches in the back of the head and the blood going to my brain. So it really did affect me physically. So, well, it was always my goal since I started to retire young on time, to get out on time. I always tell people that boxing is like drinking. You have to know when to stop. So I didn't think I was gonna fight all the way. The latest maybe being 30, but maybe retire before what I had thought, because I never felt the same, and I was like, okay, I'm at a good level. I can still go out through the front door, and I can retire young and on time. And I really felt affected by the punches, but especially since that you fire those punches in the back of the head.
Do you ever feel any kind of like pain and stuff from your boxing career?
No, really. I think I get like I told you, I get that I got out on time, and like I told you, the first few months after the fight, yes, I felt it, so some headaches and stuff. But then, no, I have felt okay since I retired. Actually, like I told you, that I went and took some tests with a neurosurgeon. When I retired, I went again with him and took every kind of CAT scans and stuff, and no injuries, no brain injuries or anything choked up like that. And he even did some, well, every kind of test on me, like a scan and tests of coordination and reflexes. So I got out okay. I got out, let's say, on time and without being hurt or not anything that I know of. But yeah, but I get your point, and it will be good that there will be a way to check athletes, or even a foundation or something to help athletes, especially in boxing or some more contact sports that have been hurt, and try to help them. I mean, if it's things that can be fixed, to fix them, and if it's things that cannot be fixed, to have like they do in sports like baseball and stuff, like players that play in the major leagues for some years get a pension, a life pension, something like that should be done.
What do you think of the WBC?
Well, they're a great organization. Actually, I have had the pleasure of being there and with them, and the Sulaimans are great people. They treat you like a king when you visit them. They're just a great structure, great organization. Of course, there's controversy for things they do, or movements they make with the fight of the champions. But I think it's more like they know I'm not justifying them, but they know how the boxing business is, or how does it play. So they really try to make everything happen, and sometimes there's controversy. There's something that I don't agree with. But well, it's boxing, and they just try to keep the chip going, floating, and that's what they do. Sometimes if they have to do things that don't look right, or the people don't like, but so as an organization, it's like kind of like the whole sport of boxing controversial. But as person, the people that work in there, the Sulaimans, Mauricio, and Jose, and everybody else, they're just nice people.
The three big F's: your family, your friends, your fans. How do you want to be remembered? How does Ahmed Santos want to be remembered?
Well, it's always tough to talk about oneself, but well, when like you said, the three big F's. Well, my family would like to be considered, well, a good family member overall, a good son, a good brother, a good uncle, everything that I could be, and I always like to have a tight family, and to be very tight with my family in good and bad times. And with my friends, the same thing. I want to be a good friend, and I always try to be very good with my friends, and try to help them, and be loyal, and be there for when they need me, and be there when they call me to share good times, because in the bad times you show up by yourself, and the good times you show up only if they invite you. Yeah, and with the fans of boxing, I would like to be remembered as someone that gave it all, someone that really was ready 100% every time that he had to be in the ring, that someone that tried to give them a good show, a good fight, a professional boxing fight, and someone that had that wanted to win all the time, and that went in there just with the only goal to try to win a fight, but at the same time giving them a good show.
And you did.
Thank you.
That's why I'm on the phone with you.
Yeah, thank you.
Every time you went in the ring, everything that you had that night, you left it there, and everything that you were about, you left it in the ring that night. We all know that your heart was always there.
Thank you. I appreciate your words, Albert. Thank you.
What's your next ventures in the sport? We know you're commentating now. What are you doing now?
Well, first of all, I appreciate your words about my career, and yes, after I retired from boxing, I have been working with Univision for it's gonna be 11 years this year, commentating the fights for them with Univision and Telefutura. So I'm gonna keep doing that. I love that. I love to comment the fights and from a point of view of a fighter, so that the people hear from a fighter what does it feel to get certain punches, to give certain punches, just from the point of view of a boxer. Besides that, what I do some work actually. It seems like something funny, well, like a dream come true. I work with Julio Cesar Chavez. I help him with some of the business he has right now with a project that he's been going on trying to grow of an energy drink. And so I work with the great Mexican champion. It's like a dream come true to be so close to him and to be one of the people that help him with stuff and cooperate and represent him in some events or some things. And the other big project that I have is I'm promoting fighters. I'm working with this company called Latin Sports out of California. We're small right now, but we're mainly developing talent here in Mexico. And we already have a group of 10 kids. 2 of them, I think, maybe they'll be fighting for a world title this year. And so that's something that I was going to do something in boxing with fighters and try to develop them and help them and try to make world champions and try to share with them what I have learned in these years in boxing. It's been 23 years since I started in this business. And so that's basically what I'm doing, promoting fighters and commenting the fights and also helping Julio Cesar Chavez with some of his businesses.
God bless you and everything that you do from here on. It's an awesome experience to talk to you, and I'm glad to have you on.
Well, Albert, no, I think once again, thank you. I appreciate your words, and I can see that you're somebody that knows about boxing. You're a true fan, and you're a part of it, and it's always a pleasure to share words and facts and memories with somebody that loves this sport too. And once again, I appreciate your words, and you're welcome anytime. And anytime that we need to talk about boxing or want to talk about boxing, it's gonna be my pleasure.
Thank you very much, Ahmed. Thank you very much, man.
You're welcome, man. Thank you. Thank you too.